So when we are talking about drawing a figure, we don't talk about measurements in terms of like our height. You know, I'm 5'4". Someone in the class might be 6 foot. Someone might be, you know, 5'10". We don't really discuss that. We kind of generalize it, so everybody is either what's called like it's referred to as measurement by heads. And what that means is that whatever the measurement of your head is, that spacing should be the same amount of spacing divided amongst your body. So the average person is about 7.5 heads tall. Most artists use 8 heads tall to draw people, so the measurements are slightly different, and I think it's just easier because then the body, the upper half of the body, starting from like our pelvis, hip area, breaks up into 4 heads, and then the legs are 4, all the way down to the feet, break up into 4 heads. So it's an easy measurement, so I think, so we'll use this for sure. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to break this up into 8. I've already pre-counted, so I know this is going to work. This is wide ruled lines, so if you have college rule, your lines might be a little bit closer together. So for me, every 3 lines kind of works. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 will go all the way down to the bottom of the paper. So again, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's the height of our figure. Now, the width of our bodies is 2 heads wide. So whatever our measurement for this box, and this is pretty square, so whatever the height is, that's going to be the width. Okay, so our bodies are 2 heads wide. Now, if you don't have a ruler, that's okay. What I did was I took a blank sheet of paper and I just folded it as tightly as I possibly can. And I want to use the one side fold. I don't want the open side. And I'm just going to lay this down, line up the bottom. I'm going to draw a line in the center for right now. So that's going to be the very center of our body. And because I don't have a ruler, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the top of my paper to this first line. I'm going to line my edge back to the line that I created. And where I have the 3, I'm going to make a mark here on this paper. And that's going to be my measurement. So now I can line up that little dash to this center line. And then I can draw a line here at the edge of my paper. I'm going to slide this down, and maybe I'll do this like here. Line up my edge so that it's nice and straight. Make sure this little mark's lined up to that. Draw another dash, and then I can connect those 2 dashes together. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'll line up now the edge of my paper to that line so that I can bring up this little line here, draw that dash. Draw my little dash. And draw my line. So now I have my grid. I can draw these lines all the way across. It's not necessary, so I'm just going to leave it like that. This top box, this is going to be the head of our figure. And so we are going to work on just sections at a time. So for the head, I'm going to draw a circle and try to make it in the center of, in the center of that. So let me erase that line here. And then just like what we did with our portraits, I'm going to draw my smile line here. And then from the edges, I'm going to bring a line, 2 lines down, and then I'm going to connect to that smiley face. Okay, so then I need to include the neck. So I'm going to bring a few lines straight down. And the neck is actually a cylinder. So remember, our cylinders have a rounded bottom. And then they have the ellipse on the top too, right? We're going to be drawing this rounded bottom. So I'm not going to, so if I erase that, that becomes our cylinder, right? So this is going to be the form that we're going to use for most of the body. We're going to alter it a little bit, but this will be the shape that we're constantly drawing. So for the bottom here, I'm going to draw a nice rounded bottom for our neck. Okay. The chest, or like the rib cage area, is going to take up these 2 boxes. I'm going to leave a little space. I'm not going to go all the way down to this line. I'm going to start about here. Our shoulders are going to extend out a bit here like this. And then this rounds down. And it comes in a bit, because this is where like our rib cage kind of ends. So technically our rib cage would be like here. Okay. On most of our figures, sometimes we'll see like a flat shape here. Sometimes we won't. This area here, about here or below, becomes, about like this area here becomes like our chest. So our chest is in this area. Then we'll see, you'll usually see some kind of like rounded, like a sphere. That's going to be where our movement's at, where we can bend. And then we have our hips, our pelvic area. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Okay. So we have the circle that becomes where we bend, and then we have the cylinder that's kind of rounded now. And then we have a slightly rounded bottom. Okay. For our legs, go all the way down here a bit. For our legs, the top part of our legs will be in this area, these two heads, and then our lower, the calf and our feet will be in this area. So right above here, this line, so it's 1, 2, we'll have our knees, and so the knees will be a small circle. So bring that in a little bit. Okay. And our legs here will be a cylinder. And then we'll have another cylinder here. This circle can get a little bigger. So we have our upper leg, our knees. And then for our lower legs and our calves, the top parts are usually a little bit wider because of our calf muscle. And then it gets a little bit more narrow to our ankle. And then our feet usually they come down a little bit like this, and then they're gonna extend out. And we usually see like there's usually a little roundness because this is where our toes would be. So these are feet coming straight at you. So all of our toes would be in this little space right here. So let me get a little closer so you can see that again. So starting here, I'm going to bring this down and kind of angling out a little bit. And then it'll angle just a little bit more. Kind of reminds me of like drawing, like if I was drawing like a Hershey kiss, right? The little Hershey kiss shape. And then I have my little arch here because this is where the toes would be at. Now we need to go back up because we need to draw the arms. Our arms and our legs are about the same length. So our arms take up, if we're looking at this figure here. So our legs took up 4 boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the arms, starting from the hand, takes up about 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So like 3, 3.5, 3 and a quarter, right? Our hands are always kind of like mid-thigh. So if you were to stand up, your hand would reach like the middle of your thigh area. So we want to keep true to that. So this would be where our shoulder starts, right? So that would be our kind of 3/4 view. So that'd be 1, and then we'd have 2, 3, and then the hand would be in this area. So so this would be where the hand should be at. Okay, so same thing. There's usually a circle here for where our, like, the arm rotates on the shoulder. About here, right above this line here where our hips are at, this is where the elbow is at. So I'm going to do a smaller circle here. So our elbow is always at the same level as our belly button. So this is essentially like where our little, I'll put a little belly button there, is at. And then to connect these, we have our cylinder. So same thing, the upper part of the arm is a little bit wider than the lower part. It gets a little narrow, not too much. Over. Okay, so elbow, elbow. And then we have the forearm, and it too is a little bit wider here, and then it gets more narrow because of the wrist. On this I'm going to draw a little bit lighter so it doesn't cover up my writing. And then I'll have my hand. So we'll have our robot hand. I'm just going to keep it very simple here. So if you notice, I'm making the palm of my hand more of like a square shape. I'm kind of drawing it like I'm drawing mittens in a sense. So that will be our figure.